the interesting thing about you two, you are a writer in Malayalam, in Kerala. You are from Ivory Coast, and both of you have a past of a connection to the French. So I just want to know in what way this colonial legacy has influenced you as a writer. Shall I ask him first? Yeah, as our guest. So in what way in your writing, as a writer, the past, the colonial legacy, did it influence or there was no influence on you?
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you to... Kerala is fantastic for me, and people are very friendly, and that is extraordinary. This festival is extraordinary for me, and I am dreaming of such a festival in Ivory Coast. To speak about colonization, I'm not a legacy. I am not a legacy of colonization. I think that every people in the world are like a sum of different influences. Some can be more violent, some can be more soft, but we are the result of those kind of colonization. Let me tell you something about France, for example. France was colonized by Roma.
Yeah.
Violently. I think more violently than they colonized us. And today, the quintessence of Frenchness is the bread and the wine that come from Italy. You know, nobody asked them what is the legacy of the Roman colonization. So the question is, why do people always ask us about legacy of colonization? Why?
As an individual, do we actually get influenced by the past?
We are all influenced by the past, by our history. And colonization is a part of our history and is a part of French history. You know, they don't recognize it, but we recognize that, you know, and it is not a problem for me to be like a consequence of this history, because I have nothing to do with that. I was born in 1971, you know,
after they left.
And my name is French, fucking French. My father called me Armand Patrick. You know, Armand is like a German name. Patrick is like an Irish name, you know. And this is my identity. But so my first political statement was to change myself, to change my name. That's why I choose Gauz to be called. You know, everybody has to find his way toward the history, and this is what we do. We deal with the history, and it is not absolutely an issue. Well.
Okay. And what about you, Mr. Mukundan? Because when you were born, Mahi was under the French rule, and India, the rest of India, under British. But you were very small. But still, actually, because I read as a school student, I have read your Mayedipadeyude Theerangalil. It is about that. So will you please tell us in what way, how do you look at it?
Like Gauz, I was also born French. But I was born French, nobody would believe it. But still, the first word I spoke, that was not in French. That was in Malayalam, my mother tongue, which is the first word I pronounced. That was Amma, my mother. That was not in French. That was in Malayalam. So being born in another country, France, of course, Mahe was France at that time. It's simply technical. You see? So I can't say that I am born French. Actually, it's technical. It's in the papers. It's in the papers. You see? But otherwise, I am a Malayali. I mean, a Keralite in all senses. My mind, the way my mind worked, and even how I look like. That was Malayali, not French. But at the same time, there was somewhere, certain elements of France in me. That is what makes interesting. I mean, me or Mr. Gauz or something. So if you that helps creativity, in my opinion. But if you are very stable, it goes against creativity. You need certain disturbance inside you, certain disharmony. If everything is coherent, everything is stable, everything is perfect, then it doesn't help creativity. So this being born as a French citizen, and at the same time, 100% I am a Malayali, there's an inner contradiction. I think these things helps trigger the whatever creativity that was in me.
So it is not the identity. So there are certain things which happened in the society that influenced you.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. Because you see, for Mahe, it's a very small place, then it is exotic also at the same time. It's like, Pierre Loti's novel. There's a French writer, Pierre Loti, and his famous novel, that is Journey to the End of the Night. In that, it's an exotic novel. What he did was, the colonial experience he transformed into something exotic, something romantic. I think unknowingly I have done it. when I wrote this novel on the banks of the Mayeji, I haven't read Loti, but finally I think that I have done it. I mean, within Mahe, I created another Mahe, which is exotic. You see, there are French people moving around, their food habits, wine, and these things were there. And the another thing, that's very interesting is that, in our experience, I mean, in Mahi, for example, the grannies, the grandmothers, they used to tell us stories, not of Mahabharata or Ramayana. They never told us stories of Rama. They told us the stories of Joan of Arc. Okay? That is in popular imagination. That was the ideal. Joan of Arc fought against the English. She fought for France against the English, and she was captured, and she was burned to death alive. So the grandmothers in Mahe narrated this story to us, the kids, we all cried. See, so what happens is in a small place like Mahe, we create another an exotic. So the question I ask myself that where do I belong?
Me also.
Yeah, these things, but if I will tell you frankly, when I started writing the novel, these things were not on my mind because I was very young. I was just hardly 25 when I started writing this.
Yeah.
So later on, when the novel was published, people started reading it, praising it. Then I was trying to find out what I have written myself. Then I crossed all this, certain similarities. Or so. That is the story of On the Banks of the Mayeji. But well, Mr. Gauz's novel, I think I have read only one. That is translated in Malayalam. And I think there is something very interesting you have written. That is Comrade Papa. I think I want to read it, but that is something very interesting. That's what I learned. I haven't read it. I heard that, that is also the story of colonial experience, but his approach is rather Marxist. I don't know whether I am mistaken. Tell us about it. Because in my novel, the novel I just mentioned, there is a Marxist kind of influence which inspired the liberation struggle.
Let me come back on the term exotic. Let me come back on this term. You, I don't consider myself as exotic, because the term means exo, out of. People who are out from me. And my first novel, Standing Heavy, was about exotism of French people. They were the exotic subject for me, And this, another question: why, as any time we use exotic, that means the Western sight on us. That is crazy. We have to reappropriate ourselves the terms, because the terms made intelligence, made think the world. We have to. So for me, exotic people from Ivory Coast, exotic people are French. They are English. They are Indian. Maybe I will write. For sure, I will write a text. When you're living in Kerala, I will write a text in which I will like treat you like an exotic substance for my writing, and we have to change the center of you. We have to decentrer. We have to change the center. The one who writes is the man who is the center. Whatever happens, he is the center. And when writing, you tell the word from your point. So we don't have to be exotic. You have to be more than this.
So what influences it is it not the past or only the present? So what is there more in you when you become a writer? When something comes inside, what comes out? So this somewhere, that past, is it not part of you?
The past is a part of everybody here. Kerala was a Marxist state. And we can always see that this place was a Marxist place, because there is a huge amount of educated people. That is history. And everybody here will write from this point. And it is this point which is interesting for me when I have to read a Malayalam book or in Ivory Coast. We used to. I am the result of national education in Ivory Coast. This national education was a result of colonization. I write and read in French. It is okay for me. It is okay for me. Reading Tolstoy or Hugo
In French?
in French is the same thing for me.
No, same English is the same for us.
Yes, of course. And this is the point. This is the real point. We have to become the center. There is this complex of superiority coming from Western countries because they have invaded the world like a bad race. They have invaded the world, and after these last 100 years of domination, they think that they have the capital culture. No, they can say that. I'm okay with that, but you are not this. Writing, painting, photographing, from my point, is the consequence of this history, but is a questioning too of this history, and that made us the center.
Did you also feel that way?
No, you see, my case is rather different to my experience.
Yes.
I had always doubt about my own identity. That's what I started talking about it, where do I stand, where do I belong? That is the question, it's always foremost on my mind. Where do I belong?
Yes, that is the way
Yeah,
he
that is
felt.
it. But luckily, I was born in Mahe and I was brought up there. I stayed there when I didn't leave it. But Mr. Gauz's case, you were educated in France, but sometime you worked there. Then you went back. And for me, there is not going back because I am there.
Yeah.
Where can I go? I didn't have an option. So, but tell me, why did you go back? That is something interesting because because no other writers have gone back. Some writers like Milan Kundera, for example, yeah, because he was sentenced to prison and he escaped that. He came to Paris and later on, his sentence was revoked. He could have gone back to Czech Republic. He didn't go. But Gauz is going back to his roots, to his homeland. That's something I admire. I admire because it's very difficult to escape from the influence of Paris. Once you are there, you are there.
So
With-
that conflict continued?
yeah, Yeah.
Conflict, the identity. Because he is the first writer in Malayalam who introduced existential anguish to all of us.
that is because I told you I had doubts about my identity. So I look for I need a solution for that. I wanted to define what is my identity. Then I searched. I read like Camus or Sartre and all that. But my sole purpose was that to find some tools to define my identity. But I was frustrated. But instead of finding my identity, all this reading confused me more. And my identity became really a burden for me. So what I do now, I don't think about it. I said, I belong where I am. So I am at the KLF. This is my homeland.
So you never felt that identity crisis, you never felt. You were part of the culture. Of course, you were born much later, but still did, like Mr. Mukundan felt that identity crisis?
Yes, I had my identity crisis because I have changed my name. That's the consequence. And identity is very complex. It is something very complex. You have to deal always with that. You have to deal with contradictions from your own homeland, from your education. You have to deal every time. So identity for me is like a moving notion. It's a moving notion. I am not the same person. I haven't the same identity. Like 10 years ago when I began to write like standing heavy, and it is not a problem. We have to accept that we are always interrogated. We are always rearranging our personality, our thoughts, our learnings to be what we have to be at that moment.
But, okay.
Me too, I believe in that. That's what he said. As he said the identity is something which is always evolving, always shifting. I believe in that. Maybe this very question of identity, I don't know, it's very relevant now because the world is so large, It's very difficult to define identity. In those days, because of the Second World War, and what happened to the Jews and all that, then I think they started asking the question, Jews or Palestinians, where do we belong? For us, it hardly matters now. Well, I think I have stopped asking. Anyway, from my part, I have stopped asking this question. And we can live without asking this question, without an identity.
I think every individual can ask that question themselves.
Already time. No.
to ask questions to them?
Time passes well. Normally, we should. I think we should ask questions to Mr. Gauz because I'm always here. He'll be gone tomorrow.
Yes. See, Mr. Mukundan says you should ask question to Mr. Gauz because he's always here. He's from
Yeah. So you saying why you asking the question, why don't they ask the French about the legacy of the Roman conquest and all that, was a breath of fresh air, because especially at literature fests all across India, and like there is a lot of talk about colonial legacy. Like if you took a marker and just marked across like the schedule, it'll glow in red because of how many sessions are about this colonial legacy, what is the colonial impact, decades after our countries have been free of that, right? So do you think there is a hang-up in how we are thinking versus how the Western powers have processed their past? And why do you think that hang-up is, if it does exist?
Please come again. What do I think?
Sorry?
Repeat your question, please.
Yeah, so is there some sort of hang-up about how we are processing our past as opposed to how Western powers have processed theirs? There seems to be a hang-up because we keep wanting to talk about the colonial legacy as if they're still on our shores, right? As if the British are still on our shores. Is there a hang-up? Are we still stuck in it, or are we processing it wrongly, perhaps? Because you rightly asked the question of why are the French
Yeah.
never asked
More
this?
comprends.
I think asking the question itself is why are we actually harping on this colonial legacy? You feel we shouldn't be asking this question?
Okay. That is a good question. That is a good question. We have to ask this question. We have to. It is our duty to ask this because it is a part of us. We assume that part, but and to assume that we have to learn about this colonial legacy to pick up what is good for us and what is not good for us. We have to make our markets into this colonial legacy. It is a factor. It is history. The French people, they have chosen wine and bread. We have to find our wine and bread from this colonial legacy. And I have an idea. The language is one of these, the greatest legacy. The colonization has bring us to us because we speak like them. So we think like them. We read their books, we see the cinemas, etc., etc. But we have something more they don't have. We have our local culture. We have also languages on our countries. Another culture. We have poets, poetry. We have a lot of things they don't have because of the superiority complex. They don't understand what happened when the first white man come on the beach and see the first black man. Only the black man have understood what happened. It was a question of two of us. But because of domination, the white people, they said, they are not human. And they have kept this superiority complex till now. We have to educate them. We have to do that. But not saying, I'm educating you. We have to propose our imaginary, our words, our photography, which is a consequence of all that history. This is my point.
Hi. So I want to talk about your writing style. In both Standing Heavy and Comrade Papa, right? In Standing Heavy, it is an avalanche of emotions, but the storytelling is incredibly linear, right? Your writing almost reads like a memoir of sorts. But in Comrade Papa, your story flows like a river, but the concept of the story itself is incredibly factured and there is no reconciliation, right? The way you explored identities, can you talk why you switched styles so drastically, going from something, you wrote something that is so linear to something that is, you know, multifaceted and layered?
The question, I also didn't get the question.
The question.
Okay, why did you choose to switch styles, or did the story dictate your writing style?
Okay. Why did I? You know, when you write every book is like a children. You know, he has his particularism, his own identity. Before you write it, you have to know that. And for writing Standing Heavy, the first version was like what I call a nigger version, an educated nigger version. You know, the educated nigger, they write more French like French people. You know, like big sentences, da 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 da. And when I read this first version, I thought to myself, this is Colonial Legacy. You know, I have to be me. And so I brought this story and invented this style because it's all about style. Comrade Papa is a question of history, colonization history, but it is a question of capitalism too. And like Standing Heavy, I'm always criticizing capitalism, in fact. And on Comrade Papa, I have to invent a language from my little child. And I did it. And I opposed this French language, invented language of a black boy born in Amsterdam, learning French while listening to Marxism speeches. I invented this language and I oppose it to an anthropologic language. You know, really anthropologic. The anthropologist knows that when they read Comrade Papa, I have to invent a new style. And each book is a question of inventing a style. Because you will understand what is the purpose of every book. You will understand it. But I have to mark you. I have to put you inside you some feeling, something about beauty of gesture. You know, we all are here in the name of a beauty of gesture.
It's a question of identity again.